Hey everyone, welcome to Defining Success. Today's guest is Michael O'Brien. Hi, Mike.
Hey, Marion.
How are you today?
I'm doing great.
Good. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So, for those of you who may not know, Mike is my husband, and I'm so excited to have him here today because when I think about what success means to me, well, he's played a large part in that. He's really helped me see success through a different lens than I think I had before I even knew him. And I feel that he has a great story to share, and I'm really excited for him to share that today on our episode. So, Mike, enough of me talking. I'd asked you some pre-interview questions just to hear your thoughts on things. And when I asked you to share your bio, you said, well, I'm an Aries. Let's just leave it at that. Could you tell me a little more about that?
About my Ariesness?
Yeah.
Well, with me, it's black or white. I'm pretty much straight to the point. I don't mess around with much punches. Get me in trouble sometimes, but at least I'm transparent and open. Yeah.
And have you always been that way?
I have. But, going to your opening line, being with you, you've opened up me even more than I knew that I was. So, yeah.
Aww.
Yeah. So,
wishy moment. So tell us what it is that you do, Mike. When you're asked, what do you do for a living? What's your response? What do you do?
Well, I usually just say stonemason, but we do so many different kinds of installations that I almost feel like it's too much to tell to anybody. But we're doing, super high-end residential homes out in the Hamptons. I hate that word, Hamptons. Out here in East Hampton, Southampton. And we do travel, by the way. We go to Newport, Rhode Island. We go to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We go to Westchester, Pennsylvania. Whatever the installation may be, we look at it and see if it's a good fit for us. And then we go through the process, whether it be high-end paving that from material from around the world, whether we're doing veneers, whether it be stone, brick, or a new product that we're doing now is a GFRC product. It's almost like a rain screen. It's a glass reinforced concrete fiber. They're panels, and it's sustainable. So architects, designers are tending to lean towards more sustainable materials to save the planet, I guess. But it's also a positive reinforcement from these architects. If they're coming from the West Coast, they're building these because of the climate that they have there for the fires. So these houses won't burn down, especially if they're built the way with concrete and GFRC, like I said, and steel and block and yada yada. But we do a lot of crazy stuff. We do fireplaces, custom boutique installations, one of a kind type. So
you had said earlier, sorry, just to jump in quickly, you had said earlier the Hamptons. I hate to say that, or you hate to call it that. Why is that? Why don't you like referring to it as the Hamptons?
I find it a term for people who summer here, who visit for 8 weeks out of the year, who consider this their weekend home in the Hamptons. For me, born and raised in Amagansett, went to school in Amagansett, went to school in East Hampton. Now myself and my wife live on the border of East Hampton and Amagansett. So no, I don't live in the Hamptons.
Uh-huh.
I live in Amagansett, or I live in East Hampton.
So I'm really curious to dig into that a little bit, if it's okay. This idea of like, this is where you were born and raised, and we
Mm,
are here right now in Amagansett.
mm.
And yet these are your clients, right? So I imagine from the way you're describing this, your clients are people who come to the Hamptons, not necessarily the people you grew up with. So what is that like? How do you manage that sort of? I think of like townies, and then the people coming from out of town. Like, explain that dynamic to me and how that pertains to your work.
Well, we do have a handful of clients who've been coming out here for years, who are kind of like they seek other pieces of properties. And fortunately, the unfortunate part is there's homes on these properties. Unfortunately, they tear them down, but they create more work because they're building more bigger and better structures. My navigation isn't always directly with the client. My navigation is primarily with a general contractor. And the general contractors usually vet their own clients, whether it's a good fit or not for them and for the schedule. I do prefer working with the general contractor because it just makes life easier. But then you have those handful of clients that you gravitate towards who just are part of the process. They love being part of the process instead of having. Another thing now is that owners' reps are a big thing now. So they stand between the client and the general contractor and all the subcontractors.
Fancy.
Yeah, I guess. But it's like you don't really get to know the person, and some of the clients, they want that, because they're too busy, they're doing what they do.
Right.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing is sorry to interrupt just really quickly. I'm hearing like you definitely serve a pretty 1% type client.
Yeah, I would say we serve the 1 to the 0.5% clientele. Yeah.
And how did you get here?
Good question.
Yeah, like how, and how do you train to do this? I mean, when you and I first met and you were like, I'm a Mason, I literally thought of you on your knees, putting bricks into place. And that was great. I was like, wow, that's cool. I came to find quickly it's much more complicated, complex, and artistic than I even realized. So I'm wondering, did you go into it because you were an artist or you had that in you, or how did you discover this? Let's hear it.
Well, there's family history. So there's generations before me. There was my father, my grandfather, and my great-grandfather who came over on the boat, went through Ellis Island the correct way.
From where?
England. Started out being ornamental plasterers, primarily in the city. Then they started working their way out east. And this is where
ornamental plasters. What does that mean?
That's
that
something
sounds
that
cool.
You don't see anymore. It's, now it's drywall, sheetrock, ornamental. All the walls in a house used to be just plaster, which is a cement product. It's a lime.
So that's a trade that came with them?
That's a specific trade. And then once that generation came here to Amagansett, and my grandfather stepped into it, that's when they expanded into doing, brickwork, stonework. And then my father kind of fell into the business after that, after he came out of the Navy. And he kind of took it over from there, doing the same thing. And he kind of put all those things together. So he was doing plaster, he was doing brick, he was doing stone. We were doing, soft set hardscape materials too.
Mm-hmm.
Then I came along. And I kind of just fell into it because it just kind of seemed like the right thing to do. Family business, I don't know. Wasn't really a college guy. I tried it. No, no. I need to work because this school isn't for me. I felt like a caged animal there. So
back to the Aries reference.
Back to the Aries thing. So I needed to get out there and just grind and start working.
Okay.
And I started working at the lowest level that you can start working at. I was a laborer.
You were what I imagined when you said you were a mason.
But you know what? It actually started, the laboring part of it actually started before, during like pre-high school, through high school, summer job. My friends of mine who wanted work we'd always find, because the busy time was always in the summer. And we worked for one of the big general contractors at the time. My father did. So there was always a job, multiple jobs. And then my part came along, and I was always like, how come we're not doing more jobs? How come we're not doing multiple jobs? Other contractors are doing multiple jobs.
So this is you saying this to your dad?
Right. And he's like, well, go ahead and try it. See how that works out for you.
Okay.
So.
And you were how old at this point?
I was in my early 20s at this point.
So, all right. So just to quickly recap, like you had always worked for your dad through high school, middle school and high school. Tried college. It sounds like that didn't work for you. Not a college guy. As you said, you felt like a caged animal. And then you come back and you actually saw potential for growth. Like you saw that your dad's business, in a term I have a feeling you didn't use, but a term that would be used today, you saw scalability in your dad's business is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, that's a term I definitely didn't use either. So, business was going well. I was trying, but you got to remember, I was working for someone else. I was working for him. And then there was a rough patch there, late 80s, when there was kind of a recession.
Right.
Even though we do live in a bubble out here because of the one percenters that still wanted and still had the funds to build their homes. But work wasn't as plentiful.
Right.
So I had a conversation with my father. He goes, listen, I don't know what to do, And the next thing I know, I got a phone call from a gentleman named Jack Whitmore. And he said, well, actually, let me change that. I actually called up Jack Whitmore's and I said, hey, listen, if there's any work that you need done, we're available to do work. Jack called me back the next day, literally the next morning. He's like, hey, it's so funny you call me. He says, we were just discussing starting a masonry department here.
Wow. So just for reference, Whitmore's, it sounds like was a company at the time. And if you can explain to us just quickly, like, was it a bigger company? Did they have a reputation?
Whitmore's was known as the big landscape company out here in East Hampton. The other one would have been Martyrs. That would be Charlie Martyr, right? So there was Jack Whitmore, and there was Charlie Martyr. But remember, Jack's father started this business before he did, and Jack's the one who took Whitmore's to the next level at the time. And then, Jack basically, in short, just gave me the reins to do whatever I wanted to do and scale the way I wanted to scale.
Pause.
Yeah.
So What do you mean? So he brought you in as an employee, or
He brought me in as an employee and as a department manager.
But what happened to your dad's company?
So Whitmore's bought my dad's company
Because of a phone call you made.
because of a phone call I made and said, listen,
I need to stop here. This is too relevant here. I'm sorry, but just a reminder, this podcast is called Defining Success, and it's really about finding how people, what does success mean? And in that moment, when you called Jack Whitmore, reached out, this is before emails and all that stuff, you just call Jack Whitmore and what do you remember that moment? I mean,
I totally remember that moment. It was like, and that's when we did have cell phones back then, believe it or not, but they were
like on the briefcase.
They were like Nokias, and like the service was horrible, and it was like I was talking to him, then I wasn't talking to him. I'm like, oh, I'll call you back, and it was horrible.
I mean, I have to ask, did you say, hey, Dad, I'm going to make this phone call, or did you just...
Well, long story short, I met with Jack, and Jack was like, listen, we don't have all the equipment that we need just to get the ball going. So he says, why don't you do this? Assess what you have. And let's figure out what the value of that equipment is. It wasn't, it's just a lot of hand tools, a little bit of machinery.
Right.
But that was basically how it was done back then. There wasn't much mechanism back in the day. So I went home. I went to my father's house, and I told him that Jack's like, he made us an offer to like buy your stuff. He was like, he was in shock. But then he was thrilled at the same time.
Wow.
He says, "Oh, you got."
Sorry.
It was interesting. It was like, it's all of a sudden there was a role reversal. Like I was in charge. I was telling my father what to do after, God, who knows what, 20 years of him telling me what to do, 22 years of telling me what to do.
So you were 22 at the time, or you were?
I was closing in. It was like around, that's a good question. Could have been closer to 25 at that time.
So young.
So, yeah, young. And we made the deal happen.
Wow.
Just kind of jump. We made the deal happen. Came on board. Jack, when he said come on board, he had already been talking to another Mason who actually did work on a house that Jack was building for his family. He didn't last.
Okay.
He didn't last because he felt like it was him against the O'Briens. So, and he just, that was pretty short and sweet. And then my role became, now I'm the boss and my father's working for me. And next thing I know, we have all this work. It's just coming in from all different directions. Next thing I know, I have like 18 to 22 guys working for me. Wow. Yeah, that's a lot to manage.
How quickly did it feel that it got to that point? And
well, considering that I just worked with, my father, 2 Masons, and me, yeah, that was a lot.
Yeah.
Well, be careful what you wish for, son. So there's jobs everywhere, right?
Right.
Yeah. To where it is today. I mean, I worked hard. I built it. I've had some once in a lifetime jobs that I've worked on, like this is the feather in your cap type moment.
Can you tell us about like what was one job that really sticks out in your mind and why? And maybe it was a job that wasn't even that impressive compared to what you're doing now, but one that was kind of a game changer for you, where you were like, oh, I've reached another level.
There's one job in particular that comes to mind. It was a job I did in Sagaponack. Me and my I guess I call him my mentor at the time because I leaned into him pretty hard. His name is Bob.
Mm-hmm.
And
Shout out to Bob Pucci.
Shout out to Bob Pucci.
Bob
And
Pucci, who also, what's it called again? Not Lifeguards Association, but
Ocean Rescue.
Ocean Rescue. Heads the Ocean Rescue. One of the heads of the Ocean Rescue, right?
He's the GOAT.
The GOAT. Sorry.
So we worked together on a job in Sagaponic. That was probably one of the biggest jobs that had ever been done out here.
Wow.
Not just the house, but the landscape and the entirety of the landscape, whether it been massive stone walls all over the property, steps, paving, veneer. We did it all. And it was quite a learning moment, actually, for me. Because you're never too old to learn.
Yeah, that's an incredible.
And that job itself even elevated I want to say the Whitmore's name, but they're calling me. It's like Mike O'Brien. Oh, at Whitmore's, right? So, yeah. And now it's like the phone and the emails, which haven't stopped since.
Well, it makes me think of how you said at one point you turned around and you had 20, 22 people underneath you. Careful what you wish for, son. Any feelings like that now? I mean, it sounds like you're in pretty deep.
So what we did is I changed my model, my business model. I went from having 22, I'll call them rank and file, whether it have been stonemasons, brick masons, laborers, to having, an office staff, foreman. And what our model is, well, my model was to take some of the key guys that we had and made them into subcontractors. So now, not only did I have the guys who worked for me, I had other horses in the barn from everywhere.
Right.
And now, I have subcontractors calling me from, from Montauk to Nassau to the city looking, how can I help you?
Yeah.
So every job is different. Not one glove fits all hands, right? If you need detailed guy or you need the guy to blast out a job, every job has a fit for a different sub. And you have to look at it that way. So our job now is for me to, which I always love, the hunt and the kill, and then execute the job.
Okay.
And then kind of pass the ball. Yeah.
Really, thanks for sharing all of this, because it's really interesting to hear how you kind of fell into it, but yet saw potential for growth. Really, to stay with the wilderness and animal sort of analogies here, really took the bull by the horns, essentially sold your father's company, which he celebrated, right? And then, I imagine he worked alongside you for a while after you sold the company. And
he worked alongside me till he was 72 years old. Unfortunately, that's when my mother got sick and he needed to tend to her more than he could, tend to working alongside me. But that's okay. He needed to take care of, take care of family. And
I got to ask you, pause, that moment, hearing you say that you basically enabled your father being able to take care of your mother when she was sick.
Right.
Had you not positioned him in that way, he wouldn't have been able to step back. So how did that feel as a son?
Well, that part felt good, to be able to do that. For him to take care of her. 72 years old. It's a long time to work from your you're like actually doing it from 18 or 20 years old, right? But as someone recently said to me, this is what we do. This is what we do. I mean, if it's a job you love, any job that kind of fires you up, you don't mind getting up in the morning, go and do what you got to do, right?
Yeah, so that's so it's like you saw that moment, you sold the company, you brought your father along, you were able to give him freedom to take care of your mother. And now here you are, you've reinvented it again by essentially you've not outsourced, yeah, you've outsourced the work to vendors, which I imagine it sounds like gives you the freedom to, how did you put it, the hunt and kill. So it gives you the freedom to go out and get more jobs, right? So you've
That's
really, so you've really built something.
Well, I put myself out there.
Yeah.
I've a lot of connections. I know a lot of people. I have met some fantastic architects. I've worked with some great landscape architects and designers. There's a difference. And you choose who you want to surround yourself with. So you surround yourself around positive people, like-minded like you, and people who are oriented to detail, right? So that's kind of like our job, is to deliver the Fabergé egg to the client, because that's what they're paying for.
So what would you say to yourself at 22 years old now? Like, what advice would you give to yourself?
Good question. I don't know if I would change a lot of how I kind of grew up. I mean, there was definitely times where I kind of went over the edge a little bit, but the advice I'd give myself is to don't be afraid to make a mistake. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there, because this is how we learn. And another big thing is you gotta ask. If you don't know, you gotta ask, because for myself, I feel like a teacher now. I feel like I'm mentoring other people. When did that happen? Right? So what would I say to myself? I would say to myself, learn as much as you can from the ground up. I mean, that's where it really, because that's where it really all comes down to. It's watch how others do their job and learn from that. And that's what I was always taught. Watch and learn. Watch and learn. And if you don't know or you don't understand how they're doing it, just ask the question. Any mechanic, when I say mechanic, I mean whether it's a mason mechanic, a stone mechanic, a carpenter, a plumber, electrician, they're more than happy to pause for 5 minutes and let you know what's going on. It's part of how we all mesh on a job site. That's how we all get along. We're a tight unit on these job sites. Yeah.
That's cool. That's great advice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love that idea of, if you don't know, ask. If you don't know, ask. Yeah, that's so true.
We have it's hard now because my good friend always says to me, we're a dying breed out here. And there's not many people wanting to go into these trades anymore. Just remember, AI cannot replace our trade. AI can replace other things, and they can replace office, but they cannot replace the people who build things.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that's a whole other conversation, but I'm sure there are ways AI can help with administrative, even some software design stuff, but
It can help us with plan reading.
right.
It can help expedite plan reading. It can help us do takeoffs quicker, more efficiently.
Yeah.
And that's where I have another team in place, a design team for basically a handful of architects that we have on staff who have worked for some of the best high-end architects
Right.
out east who get it. They get it. You know.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
Mike, this has just been so great hearing your story. And you know, I know that you've got so much more to talk about, to tell, but you know, we definitely have the full scope of your journey. And so my question for you is, how do you define success?
You know, I define success as seeing something getting put together, seeing the final product, seeing the client happy with what we've delivered them. You know, I'm not much of a person who blows my horn. I'm working here, I'm working there. Here's a picture. I'm not really good at that. I'm always getting like, well, why don't you take more pictures and do that like that? Because, you know, I know who I am. You know, I don't need to do that. I've defined success as being, you know, a good husband, a good father, a good grandfather, and, you know, someone who really cares about the craft that he's involved in. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really
You know,
beautiful. I really
you
hear
know,
that idea of caring about your craft has been sort of the thread through it all. And, you know, that's really beautiful to hear. And, you know, you say you fell into it when you were younger, but if this is falling into something, may we all be so blessed to fall into something, because you've clearly, you know, you care deeply about your craft. This isn't it, you know, it doesn't sound like something that just kind of happened by accident. So,
no, you know, and when you care about something, you speak up. And when you speak up, and see something that can be done even better, you bring that to the general contractor's attention. You bring that up to the designer's attention, and, you know, open their eyes too, to see that you're on their team. You know, I think that's a lot of it too. You got to learn to be a team player as much as you know, there's times when, you know, you just put your hands in your pocket and grit your teeth and kind of push through a meeting or two or a Zoom call. It's like, what are we doing? Okay. But, you know, let us just go to work, you know, let us just do what we need to do, you know? But yeah.
Wow. Awesome. Thank you so much for making the time to do this today, because clearly you're a very busy man. And I know you're not one, I personally know you're not one to sit on a video call, as you just, as you just claimed. So thank you, Mike, for sitting still long enough to have this interview. I'm really excited to share it with people, because I know firsthand, I'm lucky enough to know firsthand that you are a man of your word, and everything you said has so much authenticity and truth and just genuine love behind it. And I am excited for other people to hear what I get to hear a bit of every day. Thanks,
good.
honey.
Thank you for those words.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.